What's up, Spurs family? Welcome to Spurs Speak with Cash. Today we are going to be talking about the Tottenham Hotspur squad. There's been so much talk about our players not being good enough because Thomas Frank hasn't been able to get the best out of them. But that's what we're going to discuss today. Who we need to get rid of, who we need to keep, who needs to be starting, and who needs to be the players that we absolutely build our squad around. We are wearing a score draw replica of the FA Cup final 1991 Spurs kit today. No player on the back, but of course we did win that FA Cup. For those who don't remember that, we do have some trophies in our locker. And yeah, let's get straight into talking about the Spurs squad today. To go from here. Start off with the players we currently have out on loan. There is a lot of them, so we're going to do it reasonably quick with each of them. But we're going to look at first Coast Atakai, signed last summer, never made an appearance for us, went out on loan, we were told he had a foot injury. It's clear he's not at the caliber we need, even as a rotational option, even at his young age. He's going straight to the bottom. It's time to get rid of Takai. Sell him in the summer. Next up, we're going to be looking at Manos Solomon. Signed for free, of course, a few years ago now. He's had some controversial things outside of football, but regardless of that, one we got wrong on the field. He's not at the level we need to be starting for us, absolutely. I don't think he's even at the right level to be on the bench. So get him out, find a replacement, move him on. Next. 3 players now we're going to deal with at once. Yang, Ashley Phillips and Dane Scarlett. Yang, of course, signed it very young. I think it was signed in January of last year, if I'm not mistaken, and then brought into the club in the summer. Ashley Phillips now been a few years, of course, been on loan throughout that time, and Dane Scarlett, who we all know has been trying to work his way into the first team, been loaned out early this season. Similar positions to Takai, but for me, give him to the end of the season, see what manager comes in, and then make that call. Dane Scarlett under a Poch, for example, would be fantastic. Yang, I'm less so. I'm probably, Yang showed a lot of quality at Portsmouth. I think with the right manager, he can show some potential. And in that same boat, Mikey Moore is, of course, out on loan, but he's a player we need to keep no matter what. I'm not saying, build the squad around him, but slowly build him into this squad. Have him as the rotational option next season. He's been quite quality at Rangers. He took a bit of time to settle in. The sentiment that I receive from Rangers fans is very much positive. Some of them want to be signing him permanently. And finally, in our loaned out players, we of course have a gentleman called Luka Vuskovic. He is on loan at Hamburg still, and I am this close to putting him in the build the squad around him because he has shown he is quality. He's taken the step up into a first division, top 5 European league, and the sentiment we hear from Hamburg fans, the quality that we see when we do watch him, not just offensively, defensively, he is a fantastic player. For how young he is, he could absolutely be in the echelons of the top Premier League players down the line. He's still young though, which is why for me, I've put him in as a as a starting 11 option. To be honest, depending on the manager, he could be built around him. I think he would flourish under a Poch style manager who really embeds the youth into the squad. I'd be worried for him under Thomas Frank and arguably under Ange Postecoglou as well, as to if he would have been embedded enough. But I think he's someone who absolutely can. If it's a manager that has 3 at the back, he needs to be starting every single game. Now, moving into the players who we have on loan at the club, there's 2 key ones here, right? It's João Palhinha and Randall Kolo Muani. Firstly, Palhinha. He started off so well. He has scored some great goals. He's had some good performances, but equally, he's not shown that he's worth 30 million for a 31-year-old. For me, I think he's a profile that we don't have in anyone else, and that does provide a unique quality. Will he be the right level to be taking us to winning a title? No, but would he be key in taking us back to Europe? I think so. For me, I'm saying give him till the end of the season, see how he plays under Tudor. I think he can be used if he's used in the right position. We need to stop using him as a right centre-back. Keep him as a central centre-back, if anything, dropping into midfield when needed. And we could see some really good potential with him. On the flip side, we have Randall Kolo Muani. Some great performances. PSG, Arsenal come to mind. But I don't know what's gone wrong with Kolo Muani's career. He has played for some huge clubs. He's had opportunities to succeed. Of course, PSG have that upper echelon of world-class players who we can't break into, but there's opportunities at Juventus, at Spurs, to really show your quality, and he's not doing it. He's not offering anything off the ball. He's got some quality finishing, if I'm honest. He does have some good finishing, but he doesn't get any opportunities to do so. He's not going to be our first team striker at all. I don't think he wants to be at Tottenham, to be honest. You can tell by the way he plays, and obviously the media rumours before he joined. Solanke's a better player than him. He's not useful enough on the wings to be considered a starting player on the wings. If we're paying anything more than 15 to 20 million for him, it's an absolute waste of money, and I can guarantee you PSG are going to ask for more than that. So for me, he's someone we absolutely need to sell in the summer or get rid of in the summer. Don't renew the loan. Don't sign him permanently. It's time to move on from Kolo Muani. Now, when it comes to the permanent players, we're going to be moving position by position. Starting off with our goalkeepers. Third and second choices, Brandon Austin and Anthony Kinski. Look, neither are good enough to start. We've seen that. We've given Kinski chances this season and last season. He's had some good performances, but there's not the ability there to be a starting top 6, top 7 Premier League goalkeeper. He could be a good mid-table goalkeeper, but we need more than that. Keep them in the squad as depth options. Second and choice goalkeepers, no more than that. We need to either have Vicario starting or bring in a new keeper. And that moves me into Vicario. I've been a Guglielmo Vicario fan since the day he signed for Tottenham Hotspur. I still think he's up there with the top 5 to 6 shot stoppers in the world. Probably the top 2 to 3 in the league in terms of shot stopping, behind, of course, Donnarumma. I actually think he's up there with your David Rayas in terms of shot stopping. But on the ball, he is so poor that for any manager coming in who wants to play front-footed football, who wants to be attacking, it's a real struggle with a goalkeeper like Vicario. And for that reason, it hurts me, but I do have to put him into the sell in the summer category. We need to bring in a new goalkeeper. Where that comes from, I don't quite know, and we'll explore that in a video down the line where we will look at potential summer signings and who's realistic and who we should be getting, but Vicario needs to move on now. Coming forward into the fullbacks, I think this is a position where globally there is a shortage. We have our right back in Pedro Porro. I am close to saying it's time to move him on. But because the market for fullbacks is so poor across every league in Europe at the moment, within what's, I guess, attainable for a club like Tottenham at the moment, I give it to the end of the season. See who we're bringing in. If we're bringing in a manager where fullbacks are quite key to their system moving forward, Pedro Porro could be an option. But if we need them to be really strong defensively, he needs to move on. It's almost a case of, and this is where I bring in our other right back, of course, Jed Spence. It's a case of, depending on the manager, we need to get rid of one of them and keep the other as our starting right back. They are so polarizingly different in the way they operate, in the ways that they operate. Jed Spence is so reliant on the manager that can really motivate him. And on the left side, we do have 3 players. We have Destiny Udogie, of course, Susan, the new signing from January, and Ben Davies. First one, I feel like everyone knows, Ben Davies' time at Tottenham is up. He's, of course, injured for the rest of the season. He's been a great servant to the club. Just because he's been there a long time, it doesn't make him a legend of the club. But he's won the Europa League with us. Fair play. He's a good player, but it's time for him to move on. It was time for him to move on about 2 years ago. Sousa, of course, new left back, exciting left back. He slots in as a rotational option, as a depth option. Aligned more towards a manager who would play a back 3, but he could work in a back 4, I think. I haven't seen enough of him to guarantee that, but I think it's harsh to say 6 months into his career at Tottenham to get rid of him, or to even think about getting rid of him. Keep him as a rotation option, give him the minutes to slowly build up. Destiny Udogie. I have heard some people say some outrageous things about him. I know he's not always fit. Fair play. He's not been, and that needs work. But I blame beyond just him, because it's clear that we have some issues with our medical staff. Udogie is a player who, when he's fit, delivers. He's delivered in an inverted fullback role. He's delivered in wing-back positions. He could fit both, and I think he's someone we absolutely need to have starting consistently every single week where we can. Whatever changes we need to make on the medical side, fine, we do that. But Udogie, when he's fit, he's the best left-back in the Premier League. He is the best left-back in the Premier League when he's fit, and that's a big thing to say. Arguably, at his potential, he could be the best left-back in the world. So we cannot be getting rid of a player like that. He's still so young. Moving into the centre of defence. First up, another player who I've heard some outrageous things about lately, Mickey van der Ven. I think Mickey in the last few weeks has caught a lot of flack, especially in the absence of Romero, in terms of his leadership style. There's been obviously media talking about the whole situation with Igor Tudor this week, which has been cleared up now. But I don't get it. I think he's been misused in the sense of being... I don't think he's ready for the leadership position. He shouldn't be the vice captain, in my opinion. Cannot even consider having him anything other than someone we built this squad around. He needs to be up there. He needs to be the player that we center the squad building around and offer him whatever it is to keep him, because we need a player like that to stay at this club. And I mentioned Vuskovic earlier, of course, someone who needs to be starting more games, and that does mean in terms of our rotational options we need to make some changes. Kevin Danso signed a year ago now. I think he's been fantastic, played a big role in coming off the bench in the Europa League final, has played a big role in Thomas Frank's long throws when he needed, but also when he comes on, he gets the job done. He's not a player that should be starting because he's not that level quality, but a rotation option, great, let's keep him. I can't say the same for Radul Dragusin. Radul Dragusin, when he's been given the chances, hasn't necessarily shown the quality that's needed. More than just the quality that's needed, he's not made for a front-footed manager. He's made for managers who are willing to sit back. Under Thomas Frank, if Frank actually worked out, he could have been a good player for him. But the way that we need to be playing in that front-footed manner, Dragusin doesn't suit it. He doesn't suit us, and it's time to, again, cut the losses, move on, sell him for that 15 to 20 million, and recoup whatever we can. And finally, a very controversial one, I think, in the market nowadays, Christian Romero, of course. Honestly, we've seen it from Romero. He knows how to remain disciplined and calm when he's in a good environment. When Ange had instructed him to be more restricted in those ways and use it in the right way, his disciplinary record improved. He had no red cards for 2 years, which I know a lot of players just take as granted, but that's a strong record for Romero. And yellow cards, he was lower than Van Dijk, Kanate, Saliba, some of the key players per 90 minutes last season. And Thomas Frank brought out the worst in him. He absolutely told him, go out there, be aggressive. He couldn't control him. Romero clearly didn't respect Frank. And that's why, for me, we need a manager who can do that, who can demand that respect. And that's why he goes into the player that we need to build this squad around. He's our captain. He's probably the best choice for captain behind James Maddison, in my opinion. And he has shown that on the field, he knows how to lead. He took our players into the Man United half at the Europa League final. He's won a World Cup. He won man of the match in the Europa League final. People say he doesn't show up in big games. I'll show you a big game with Coutinho Romero, and I'll show you a player turning up. If we look back at some of his red cards, Chelsea, it was a follow-through. Again, follow-through recently as well against Liverpool. Those are follow-through. His action when he kicks the ball, when he's using the ball, yes, it does enable opportunities for him to strike a player high up on the foot. But this isn't tackles where he's going in two-footed and breaking a leg. That's not what it is, and that's what the media make it out to be. There are fouls that happen, Gabriel a few weeks ago, for example, where if that's Romero, he's getting a second yellow for that. But because it's Gabriel or because it's a Van Dijk, they're just seen as players who are allowed to do that because they're better defenders. And I think that perspective comes massively into how Romero is treated. Moving into those defensive midfielders, I mentioned, of course, that this is a position we've struggled in for years. I don't think we've ever had a very strong six in terms of quality. Even Victor Wanyama, I wasn't a huge fan of. Maybe it's because the Tottenham way we play doesn't need that six to be that strong because we run more offensively with some strong central midfielders. And this is where we've got Bentancur and Bissouma. I've said give Polina till the end of the season. With Bentancur and Bissouma, I've seen enough. Bissouma is way too inconsistent. Bentancur has been misused a lot, but even when he's in his right position, well, what is his right position? I feel like no one knows, because no matter where we put him as an 8 or 6 and change his role as an advanced 8 to a deep line playmaker 8 or to a very strongly defensive minded 6, none of them work for him, and I think it's time. Move them both on, get rid of them in the summer, bring in some replacements where we need to be starting at that 6 if we are running a system with a 6. The only other option we have here at the moment is, of course, Archie Gray. Archie Gray's still young, given the chance to be starting games every once in a while, and he will develop. He shows he has the potential, he has the ability to be starting in those League Cup games, to be starting consistently, and rotationally bring him on. Bring him on at right back, bring him on at CDM, and see where he plays from there. Not right wing back, not centre back. Moving past the 6 into the 8, we've got a lot of players here. You could argue that Bissouma and Bentancur are 8s, not 6s, and we've always had a lot of 8s, which makes me question the decision to sign Conor Gallagher in January. One thing I will say good about Conor Gallagher is his wages are very high, and that normally is a bad thing, but that shows that Vinay was real about we need to rip up the wage structure we have and make a change, and that is really positive to see as a Tottenham fan. Gallagher himself, he's been okay. I initially was not a fan of Conor Gallagher during his time at Chelsea. Under Pochettino, he was used quite well. I'm hesitant to say he needs to be starting because I don't think he's at that level, which is crazy for a player who's being paid £200,000 per week for Tottenham to not be starting. He should be at that for his financial commitments that we've done towards him, but he's a rotational option to me. Keep him there, but don't sell him. Great. And next we look at Pape Matar Sarr. I think he's been consistently quality, Pape. He was quality under Conte, not given opportunities. Under Ange, I think he was one of our best players. He was an absolute engine. He was so important to our play. Thomas Frank even, although he didn't start as many games as he should have, he started off fantastic under Frank. Some great performances. Towards the end, you could tell he had really lost it. And that's why for me, if we have a manager who really embraces Pape, like a Pochettino, like a Nagelsmann system, I think Pape can be a superstar central midfielder. He can be a team of the season level quality central midfielder. Needs to be used in the right way though. And that's why for me, so for the moment, we're going to put Pape in the rotation option, but a very high rotation option that should be starting 10 to 15 Premier League games in a season at least. And next is, of course, Dejan Kulusevski. He's out with his patella issue. If that was what it was, no one knows. That man has had surgery and been out for 12 months, which is crazy. In a dream scenario, he comes back and is able to achieve the same level of success and quality that he had previously. Realistically, that's probably not going to be possible. But I can only go off what I know about him. And for me, he needs to be a starting 11 player. He was massively affected by this injury, and you can tell he will be. But when he plays in that 8, the ability to defend, his pressing quality, his ability to find space in tight areas, Dejan Kulusevski is a perfect 8, perfect advanced 8, and he needs to be used there as a starting player. And finally, in that central midfielder 8 role, the player we're looking at is, of course, Lucas Bergvall. By far the most promising and bright part of being a Tottenham fan in the last 24 months, apart from the Europa League win, is probably Lucas Bergvall. Every time I watch him, he can play at the 10, he can play at the 8, he can play at the 6 when need be, and he does quality. He was misused massively by Frank, being put at right wing basically. That was a joke, which he also did with Conor Gallagher. But in those central positions, Lucas Bergvall, for how young he is quality. And the rumours are that we've said hands off to the rest of the Premier League. He is ours, and I agree with that decision. No matter what it is to keep him, build the squad around this young Swede. Because if he reaches the potential that he has at this club, we would be in serious, serious business at the top of the Premier League. Moving into the 10 position, those attacking midfielders, another position where we're quite light because of how heavy we are in that 8 more balanced central midfielders. You know, we have Kudus and Kulusevski who can fill in the 10 role, but our main 10s are, of course, Xavi and James Maddison. James Maddison out with the ACL till next season. Look, if his recovery goes all well, he's able to get back at that same level. Similar issue to Kulusevski. He needs to be a starting player at that level. He should be our captain, realistically. I am a person who prefers a defender being a captain, so Romero managing that is fine with Maddison as a vice captain, but he needs to be in that leadership group going into 2026, 2027. And alongside him, Xavi. Xavi was 65 million pounds or euros. He hasn't shown his worth there, but I do think his use on the left wing has been really poor. He needs to be played centrally, and he shows some really big glimpses. Should be starting for us, and he should consistently be in those options. We worked our way through the defense, through the midfield. Now it's time to move into those attackers. Starting with the wide options, we are going to look at Wilson Odobert. Odobert's shown some sparkles this season. I know he's just been injured, of course, and likely to be out for the rest of the season, which is a shame because I think he has been quality. And that's why, for me, he needs to be in a rotation option still next season. He's starting to show glimpses of the reason that we spent 25 to 30 mil on him, and I can understand it. And that's where we go to Mohamed Kudus, of course, out with an injury at the moment. But Mo Kudus is someone who has shown absolute quality when he's on the ball. He's been misused at times. He's been put on the left. He's been used centrally, which I don't hate the idea of him being central, but we know from his time at West Ham, he plays best when he's on the right. I think he's such a Tottenham player. He should not only be consistently starting, but he's a player we need to build this squad around. He has the right attitude towards going forward, towards the goal to be used so well by, for example, a Pochettino coming in. If he is the man who comes in, Mohamed Kudus under Pochettino would be fantastic. And regardless of who comes in, I want to see them get the best out of Kudus and build that squad around him. And finally, the strikers, a position we've struggled with for 14 years in terms of striker recruitment. I say recruitment because, of course, Harry Kane came through the academy. We were lucky, and we have struggled every single window. It feels that we're linked with them. We seem to get it wrong. My exception to this rule is Dominic Solanke. I think Solanke, 65 million euros is a lot for him, but I think he has been quality, and I think he will continue to be quality. So for Solanke, pop him in to that starting 11 and keep him starting, because under a right manager, again, a high-pressing manager like Nagelsmann, if it was to come in, Iraola, of course, his relationship with Solanke at Bournemouth, Pochettino, some high-pressing managers. I think with Tudor as well, we'll see it as he gets that pressing system built back into the squad. Solanke will perform fantastic, and that's why he needs to be starting. The backup options that we have at the moment, I unfortunately can't quite say the same for. Richarlison, been at the club the longest out of any of our strikers, cost us 60 million. His goal to minutes ratio isn't terrible actually, but he's not fit. He doesn't offer anywhere near as much as we'd need outside of those positioning, outside of those free goals that he does score. And that's why, for me, we need to get rid of him. I can't believe we haven't in the last 2 years. I know he has come out and said he wants to play for Tottenham Hotspur, but how have we not sold him to a Saudi for 40 mil, cut our losses, and taken that sale? Because get rid of him. Just get rid of him as soon as we can. The other option is, of course, Matis Tell. Tell, still very, very young. I think actually this season, he has been a strong candidate to take ownership of that left wing position once Son left. It's a position where I said we need to sign someone like a Lookman, who, for some reason, Tottenham made the decision not to sign, and he's doing so well now at Atletico, of course. But Matis Tell took that responsibility to take ownership of that position. And I think he was playing quite well, and he was mistreated by Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank's player engagement was horrendous, and it meant that so many of these players were losing engagement despite playing well. And Matis Tell is one of those. I think Matty will excel in our squad. he does need a little bit more for me to say, yes, he's a guaranteed starter. I think we do need to bring in a left winger. We need to bring in a first team left winger who will play every game and score, say, every 2 games. Tell Odebear and Mikey Moore as the 3 rotational options for that wing is fantastic. With Kuda starting and a starting left winger, we'll be fine. That leaves us with it. It leaves us with a summer where we need to offload about 8 players, which I think is realistic in one summer, with potentially 2 to 3 more. Of course, some of those will just come out of contracts like Ben Davies, etc. And it also leaves us with a strong foundation to go into the market and strengthen the squad from there. Because realistically, if we're not relegated this season, which I'm assuming we're not because we have faith in Tudor, if we're not relegated this season, we can't look at next season and go, oh yeah, we need to come 10th. No, we have the quality. These players were the same players who came 5th. The starting 11 is very similar, if not better than the players who came 5th. So there's no reason why these players can't. It needs the right management, it needs the right people behind them to do that. But we should be aiming for at least 7th, 6th, those European spots, if not higher, into next season, even if we do come 15th. I'm sorry, but that is the reality of Tottenham Hotspur. That's the reality of the quality of players we actually have. No matter what a rival fan says about, oh, have you looked at the same results as me? We know the context of last season. We know the context of this season. And this squad should be and can be playing European and Champions League football. We've seen that by the fact we came 4th in the league phase in the Champions League. That's been it from me. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure to like, comment any ideas of videos you'd like to see, who you think we need to get rid of, who you think we need to build the squad around. Make sure to click that subscribe button, and thank you for watching.